Hi everyone, it's Lisa Mears here. Thank you so much for joining me. In this video, I'll be showing you the Stamps of Life Club products for November of 2023, and I'll also be making cards with these products. So this month we have another winter theme. It features the Skating2Winter stamp set, which has two cute little animals that are ice skating. There's also two winter hats and lots of sentiments. Some of the sentiments are sending you winter cheer, warm wishes, skating through winter, wishing you frosty fun, may your winter be filled with twirls and spins. There's also hugs, or you can say warm hugs, and warm birthday wishes. So this set can be used for winter cards, holiday cards. You can also use it for winter birthday cards since there is a birthday sentiment in this stamp set. So if you belong to the Stamp Club, you'll get the stamp set, but if you belong to the Die Hard Club, you also get the coordinating dies, and with the dies there's also a Christmas tree die that's included. So you can make some cute little winter scenes with this set. So let's go ahead and take a look at the contents of the November card kit. This card kit is called Winter Wonder, and wait till you see the color palette. It is so pretty. So here is the inspiration card that has some example cards that you can make with your card kit. So let's go ahead and take a look at the solid color cardstock in this kit. You get two sheets of the pink cardstock. This is the candy cardstock from the Stamps of Life. You also get two sheets of this light purple. This is the Pixie cardstock. So pretty. Love that pink and purple. You also get two sheets of the Blue Jay cardstock. This is the light blue. There's also one sheet of the Midnight, which is a dark blue. There's also the Sky cardstock. And then there's four sheets of the Powdered Sugar, which is the white cardstock. So look at that beautiful color palette. Perfect for winter cards. You also get a large storage envelope. It's a plastic storage envelope that you can use to store your card kit contents or even your cardstock. And I like to use mine for storing my 8.5 by 11 cardstock sheets. You also get a pack of A2 size envelopes, so they're perfect for your smaller A2 size cards that measure 4.25 by 5.5 inches. There's a paper pad included in this kit. So let's go ahead and flip through here so you can see all of the beautiful patterns. So here's a sheet that has all of those cute little animals ice skating, and you're going to see that on the reverse of several of these papers are snowflake images in different colors. And then here is the sheet that you can die cut with your coordinating dies. So here I would just take the shadow dies and die cut these images. So for 4 of the dies, you can use the corresponding dies for the Die Hard Club for this month. But if you wanted to die cut the penguins or the polar bear, that comes in a different set. So those dies come in a different set that's not included in this card kit. And I always just use my scissors and fussy cut those out because I don't have the dies to die cut them. So flipping through here, you have a page of trees and then more snowflakes, and here is the Winter Wonder words. So you get one sheet with the larger Winter Wonder words, and you'll see coming up here shortly that you'll get a sheet with the smaller words. So there are some solids in the kit, and then there's some more of the animals ice skating, but I love the snowflake and the tree patterns. You can make so many beautiful winter scenes with just that snowflake background or even the tree pattern. And then if you wanted more pieces to use on cards, you can always take these sheets that have the animals that are ice skating and you can fussy cut those out with your scissors and use them on your cards. So you can see with the snowflakes, there's several different color snowflakes. We saw pink and blue, darker blues and lighter blues and purples, so lots and lots of colors here. Okay, so that is the pattern paper pad. Moving on, you also get an A1 size single scallop card die set. So here's everything that's included to make an A1 size card. So you actually get the die to make the card base. It also has some scallop layering pieces and a snowfall layering piece and some more Christmas trees. So you can use those trees on other cards as well. It doesn't have to necessarily be just with this die set. You also get a pack of this shiny silver, it's like a mirror paper. You get 3 sheets of them. They are square size sheets, but they're so pretty, perfect for these winter cards. You get a sheet of stickers. So these are all of those little animals. You have the bunny and the penguins and some snowflakes. Also included is a pack of snowflake embellishments that you can use on your cards. And there are also some small, these are very miniature, silver bows. You also get the Winter Wonder word die, and I love how these are 2 separate dies because you can use the word winter alone by itself if you wanted to. That word winter, it does have a little snowflake for the dot and the I. I love that, but you can see that the font that these will die cut out in, so that's the same font there that's in the paper pad. And you also get this beautiful silver ribbon. This is so pretty. I've never seen a card kit with this type of ribbon before, but it has this beautiful shiny edge on both sides. You can see how beautiful that is. So that's everything that's included in the Stamps of Life November card kit. There's one more club which I don't have here, and that's the Fold It Club, where you can make a shaped card. If you're interested in taking a look at the Fold It Club as well as these clubs, the links will be down in the description box of this YouTube video and on my blog at lisamearsdesigns.com. If you are interested in joining one of the Stamps of Life clubs, I always appreciate when you click on my links because it does help support me. And by using my links, you'll also get 500 bonus club points to spend in the Stamps of Life store. So let's go ahead and make some cards with this kit. I'm going to start out by die cutting these animals and the winter hats from this pattern paper pad. I love being able to die cut these images because they're already colored for me and I don't have to worry about coloring them up. So these definitely make for some quick and easy cards. And then if you run out of these images from your paper pad, you can always stamp them out and color them up yourself. So after I die cut those, I did set them aside, and I also took the dies that you see there on my table of the Christmas trees. One is from the Die Hard Club set, and the other one is from the Scallop card base that's included in the kit, and I chose to use the 2 different sizes to die cut some green Christmas trees. I used some mint chip cardstock from my stash and I just inked up the edges, and I'm adding some ink there on top just to add some more definition to those trees. And then next I'm going to bring in some white acrylic paint and I'm going to squeeze some out onto my mat, spray some water to mix that up really well and get it a little bit watery. And then once I have that mixed up, I will take a paintbrush and just use the tip of the paintbrush to flick on some paint. So I'm just putting some paint splatters, which is going to look like snow on those trees. I die cut the shadow layer of those Christmas trees out of some of the darker blue cardstock, and I am just gluing down the Christmas trees to the shadow layer. And I'll do that for all of my trees. Next, I'm going to go ahead and stamp out a sentiment onto some white cardstock. This sentiment I'm stamping out in some dark blue ink because I wanted it to match the color scheme of my first card that I'm creating, which has a lot of the dark blue in it. So this stamp is from the Stamp Club set, and it says, "Sending you winter cheer." I'm going to use a rectangle die to die cut that sentiment from the cardstock But if you don't have a rectangle die, you can always just use some straight edge scissors or a paper trimmer and trim it down. But sometimes I don't always get a straight edge when I use my scissors, so it's easier for me to use these rectangle dies. I'm going to layer that sentiment up on a piece of the mint chip cardstock. That's the same color I used for the trees. And again, that piece was one that I got from my stash. So here I have the snowflake panel, and that snowflake panel I cut down to 5¼ by 4 inches, and I also added a hillside border. I love that hillside border that I use because it has a scalloped edge, and that is a pretty pink Posh die. It's their Stitch Border 1 dies. I will have links to everything extra that I use in this video. I'll have those links in the description box and on my blog in case you're interested in seeing anything else that I've used that's not included in this kit. So I went ahead and added that hillside border to the bottom of the snowflake paper, and I just trimmed it so that it has a straight edge along that snowflake cardstock. I'm going to use 4 of the Christmas trees. I didn't know how many I was going to use, but I think I'm just going to use 4 here because I didn't want this card to be too crowded. But I made a whole bunch extra, which I'm just going to save. And then I'm going to add the sentiment Sending You Winter Cheer in the middle of each set of trees. And I am tucking those trees behind that snowy border. My little animals are going to be ice skating down below. So I'm just going to create like a little frozen pond here with some ink. I'm just using a finger dauber, and I am dipping that in some of my Peacock Feathers Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just putting this in like almost like a little oval shape towards the bottom of that card, and I want to make sure that it's big enough so both of these little animals will fit on it, so you can see that I'm expanding the size of it as I go. So little by little, and then I will add those little animals to the top just to make sure that it does cover them fully. And once I've got the right size, I will go ahead and glue those die cut pieces to my card. I'm going to add some cardstock mats to this card panel. I have a piece of the mint chip cardstock that I'm layering my card panel onto right now. That one I cut to 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. You'll notice that I did cut the center out just because I wanted to save that cardstock. I knew I could use it with more trees if I wanted to, and I didn't want to waste it just by putting that entire panel on the whole sheet of cardstock. And then I layered again onto the dark blue cardstock, which is cut to 5 1/2 by 4 1/4, and again I cut the center out of that. So I just took a rectangle die and cut the center out of both of those pieces to save that cardstock. I took the same rectangle die and die cut a piece of white cardstock just to fill this in so that the card on the back side is all of the same height. So there's my rectangle die. That way it's going to lay flat on my card. I didn't want to have a gap in the back from all of those holes cut out of the cardstock. So now it's able to lay flat just by inserting that piece of scrap cardstock. So I added that to an A2 size white card base, and that completes my first card. For my second card, I have a piece of the tree paper and the snowflake paper. I cut both of them to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Now I'm going to take this rectangle die and I'm going to die cut a rectangle out of the snowflake paper, and I'm using a rectangle that's large enough for this polar bear. So once I find the right size rectangle, I'll go ahead and use my mint tape and tape this die down to the snowflake pattern paper. I'll run that through my die cutting machine, and then I'll remove the inside rectangle because I'm not going to need it for this card. I just wanted to get that frame because this card is going to be a shaker card, and you guys know how I love my shaker cards, so I had to make this a shaker card because my intention here is to make it look like it's snowing with those winter trees behind it and the polar bear skating in the snow. So here I'm just taking a circle die and I'm basically measuring measuring to see if I have the right size circle because I want to create a platform where this polar bear is ice skating. And I'm just going to die cut this out of some of the Blue Jay cardstock. So I'm just taking the edge of that circle die and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine with that light blue cardstock, and then I'm just going to add some ink to the edges of this cardstock. So this is another way of adding the pond where the animal is ice skating. So rather than just adding ink to your cardstock, you can also just die cut a piece of cardstock and put it there at the bottom of the card. So I'm going to go ahead and take that circular piece and I'm going to put glue on the back and I'm going to add it so that it is flat against the tree pattern paper. So I'm going to remove the frame, but I do want to make sure that it's coming down far enough onto that snowflake frame so that there aren't any gaps there. So once I have it exactly where I want it, I'm just going to press it down to the tree paper and then I'm going to add my polar bear right to the top. So here's where I'm going to start making my shaker. I have a piece of acetate that I'm going to glue behind the snowflake frame. So I'm putting some glue on the cardstock, on the back side of that cardstock. And then I'm going to add the acetate to the top and press that down. And then I'll trim off with my scissors any of the excess acetate. Now, if you do not like making shaker cards, because I understand that not everybody does, and that's perfectly fine, you can just add this frame directly to that polar bear panel without making it a shaker. So you can skip the acetate part as well as this foam part. So here, in order to make it a shaker, I have to add some foam in order to lift this frame up from the bottom panel. So I'm just adding some foam strips around all four sides of this rectangle. Make sure that the foam is connected on all four sides and there's no gaps because you don't want your shaker pieces to fall out of any holes. If you have something like glitter or sequins that you think might have static on it and might stick to your acetate, just use some powder to add to the acetate and that should eliminate some of the static cling. But if you're using like clay confetti pieces, usually those don't have any static to them and you wouldn't even need to use any powder. So I just found some sequins from my stash and I'm adding them on top of the polar bear. So you want to make sure that you're adding them to the center of that panel and the sequins are not on the edges because the edges are going to be adhered to the card panel and you want to just make sure that they're right in the middle. I also have some sequins here from a Spellbinders card kit and I am just picking out some of the green ones and the white ones. I didn't want to put any pink in there because I don't have any other pink in my card. And then once I have everything how I want it and I have all of the sequins in there, I'll remove the backing off of the foam and then I'll place that frame right on top of that tree panel. And it's going to fit perfectly because remember that these two panels were the same size. So we cut them both to the 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. So they measure up perfectly. So there's no overhang. Now I'm going to add my sentiment and I die cut the word dies Winter Wonder out of the silver cardstock. Just going to add them there to the front of the card. So I'm going to add the word winter to the top in that empty space above the polar bear's head. And then I'll add the word wonder on the bottom. I am just using an acrylic block to hold that word die down to the acetate. I want to make sure that I get a good stick from the glue to the acetate. So I'm just using that acrylic block to hold it down. I'm going to add a few of the snowflakes to my card front. Just adding them right to the top of the acetate in some of the open areas surrounding the polar bear. And then I'm going to add this panel to an A2 size white card base. And that will complete my shaker card. I love how this turned out. So cute. So for this card, I'm using the same die that I used on the first card, that scalloped edge die for snow. And I'm also using the snowflake panel that I cut from the second card. So remember the rectangle that we cut out of the frame? That's what I'm using here. So the snowflake panel will be above the white cardstock panel, and I'm using a circle die and making sure that my little animal is going to fit inside so I can create a little scene inside of this circle. And I have this piece of silver cardstock that I cut out with the edge of this balloon die. I was actually looking for an oval so that it wasn't such a round shape, and I didn't have any oval dies, so I took this balloon die from my stash and just cut out the edge, and that's going to give me a not so round edge like I had in the previous card. It's going to give me more of an oval shape for the edge. So that's going to be the little pond that this little animal is skating on. And once I have all of those cardstock sheets positioned exactly how I want them inside of this circle, then I'll go ahead and add some mint tape to this circle die to keep it in place so that it doesn't shift when I run this through my die cutting machine. I will remove that little animal before I die cut, and then once I die cut it, I'll go ahead and remove the die and all of those pieces, and then I'll be able to glue all of those pieces together. So I love creating little scenes on my cards, and you don't have to create scenes on an entire rectangular card front. You can do them within these little shapes like I'm doing here, creating a little scene inside of this circle. I'm going to use some of those trees from card 1 that I had left over, and I'm going to put them here in the background behind the snow. Once I have everything where I want it to go, I'll go ahead and remove each piece individually and then add glue so that I can adhere it to this circle. Because I have multiple layers of cardstock on this circle, the head of this critter is not going to be pressed down evenly onto the cardstock. So what I've done to make it even is I just took the shadow die and die cut a piece of white cardstock and then just cut the face part out of that die cut piece. And I'm going to tuck this behind the face of the die cut image, and then I'll be able to glue this to my card. That just adds a little bit of layer underneath his head so that I can easily press this down onto the cardstock and it can lay flat. So don't forget about those little winter hats that were included in the paper pad, and I did die cut one, and I'm going to go ahead and add it to his head. I have a top folding white card base, which I'm going to have the circle on, and I'm going to add a stamp sentiment on the bottom, and then I'll have the circle in the middle, and I'm also going to have a bow tied up at the top. So I'm just positioning everything to make sure it's all center aligned on this card panel. I'll bring out my Misti and I'll place this card panel in the Misti. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the bow, and I'm going to remove the circle once I have my stamp aligned. And then I'll go ahead and stamp out warm wishes at the bottom of this card panel. And I'm stamping it out in a dark blue ink because I wanted it to match that blue sky. Next, I'll go ahead and glue the circle to the card panel, and I'll attach that bow with a glue dot, and I'll put it there at the top. Now, if you wanted to make this look like an ornament that's hanging, you can always take a black marker and draw a line from the center of the bow all the way to the top of the card if you wanted to do that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to just leave it alone, and I'm just going to add a few of these snowflakes to the bottom portion of this circle. And that's going to complete this card. For my next card, I'm using that A1 Scallop card base that's included in the kit, and I die cut the actual card base from white cardstock and then this scalloped layering piece from pink cardstock. You can see how that pink cardstock will then just layer onto the front of the white card base. And then I also took that same scallop die and die cut a piece of the purple snowflake pattern paper. And since I wanted a pink scalloped edge, but I wanted the snowflakes on the inside, I'm going to take a rectangle die. And the rectangle die, I just basically picked one that fit the inside of this scalloped snowflake piece. So after running that through my die cut machine, it gives you these two pieces. You have the inside rectangle and then you have the scalloped border. Don't throw away that scallop border because we will be using that in the next card. So you can see how that rectangle will fit perfectly on the front of the pink scalloped layering piece. So now I'm going to take that purple snowflake piece and add some ink around the edges. This is my Distress Oxide Wilted Violet ink. It's a really pretty purple ink, and just adding it around both of the left and right sides and the top. I don't need to add it to the bottom, but I wanted to keep a lighter center and a darker edge. I'm also taking a piece of the silver cardstock and just using my scissors to cut out a little hill. So once I have that hill cut out, that's going to go at the bottom of that snowflake rectangle. I'm also going to take a piece of white cardstock and I'm just going to place my silver hill that I cut out with the scissors. I'm going to place it on top of the white cardstock, and I'm just going to kind of just go along with the curve and cut the white cardstock along with that same hillside curve of that paper. And the reason that I'm doing that is because the white is going to represent the snow and the silver is going to represent the pond. I'm adding the white cardstock first to the snowflake paper, and I'm just trimming off the excess. And then I'm going to add the silver paper, kind of line up where those curves are, and I'll glue that down as well. So one of the reasons why I wanted to die cut this snowflake pattern paper out of a rectangle die is because I needed a straight edge to add these borders. I wouldn't have been able to add them like I wanted to add them if I just had the scalloped edge. So I just wanted to create this straight edged layering piece, and plus I really love that snowflake pattern at the top of that cardstock. I just think it's so pretty and makes for a really nice winter scene. I die cut some of the trees out of white cardstock. They are a little bit too long, so I'm snipping off the bottom of some of those trees, and then I'm going to add them to the background here behind that white snowy hill. The stickers on the sticker sheet are the perfect size for this little scene. So I'm going to add a couple of the animals that are ice skating. I'm going to add the bunny and two of the penguins. I stamped out a sentiment off camera. I got the smallest one that was in that stamp set that says wishing you frosty fun, and I stamped it with some pink ink and just cut it down so that it would fit in that open space. And then I'm going to add some glue to the back of this pink layering piece, and I'll add it to the white card base. I'm going to add two of these little miniature silver bows, one on each corner. I think adding one on each corner really frames out this little scene. I think that is so super cute. So that is going to complete this card. So for my next card, I want to show you how to use this little snowflake die. It's a little background die that's included with the A1 Scallop card die set. So this background die has these two pieces. You have the snowflake die, which is a drop-in die, and then you have the rounded rectangle die. So if you want to cut this snowflake background out of the cardstock, you have to layer that snowflake die inside of the rounded rectangle die, just like I'm doing here. I'm just adding some mint tape, and I'm going to run this through my die cut machine. I am using the Sky cardstock, which is the darker blue cardstock. And once you run that through, you get this rounded rectangle background die cut out, and it cuts all those little stars with snow out for you as well. You can then take that rounded rectangle die and die cut a piece of white cardstock or any color you want and layer that behind the snowflake so that you can see the white in the background. So you can take that panel and use it on a card, but I also want to show you how you can use this die with the scalloped card base. So if you die cut the card base, here I die cut it out of white cardstock, and then just layer that panel die or that background die on top of the front of that card base. Here I'm just going to add some mint tape to my die so it's held down and it doesn't shift when I run it through the die cutting machine. And notice that once you die cut it, you have this card base with the snow cut out of the front. So I'm going to go ahead and take that piece that I die cut from the previous card. Remember this purple piece, the snowflake paper, where I cut the rectangle out of the inside? And I told you to hold on to it because here's where I'm going to add it back. I'm just going to add a little frame around this. So I'm going to go ahead and center this up over those scallops and just frame out the front of this card. So let me show you something else. So now if you add a, let's say a word die or a stamp to this or a die cut to the front of this, you'll be able to see it in the back through all of those holes. And then also if you were to write your message on the inside and you close your card panel, you'd be able to see all of your print going through all of those holes on the front. So how do we fix that? Well, we fix that so easily by just taking the bottom portion of the card base die, so just the scallop portion, and die cutting that portion out of some cardstock. And I'm just going to use some solid color cardstock, and I chose to use this Pixie cardstock, the light purple, because that matches that frame that I just added back to the card. And then with your card base open, so you're looking at the inside of your card, you're putting glue on the solid cardstock part. So make sure you don't put glue over any of those holes. Just put glue all around the edge and then come in and just put some glue around all of those holes where all of the snow and star is cut out of the cardstock. And then once you've done that, you can go ahead and layer up the solid scalloped piece that you just die cut. So I'm going to go ahead and press that down. And then when I fold this card base, you can see all of that purple background through all of the snow and stars on the front panel. Next, I'm going to use the ribbon that came in the kit. I love this silver ribbon. It's so pretty and it's a little bit shiny. I love that. I'm going to wrap it around the top of the card base and tie it in a knot, and then from there I'm just going to tie it in a bow. I'll snip off the edges, and that bow is going to be positioned towards the left side of that card, and then I'm going to go ahead and put two of the silver trees. I die cut them out of silver cardstock. And I'm also going to add the words Winter Wonder, which I also die cut out of the silver cardstock. I think that the silver and the light purple and the white, I love those colors together. I think it looks so pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and add everything here to my card. And that's going to complete this card. So with my next card, I wanted to use that background panel piece that I die cut previously, But this time, before I add it to the white cardstock, I wanted to add some ink to the edges of the blue panel. So I'm just using some of my Prize Ribbon Distress Oxide ink and adding ink around the edges. And then once I have that ink applied, I'm going to come in with a little bit of a darker ink. This is the Chipped Sapphire Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to apply the darker ink around the very edge. So the other ink came more towards the center. This one is just on the edge, but I still have that center that has no ink, so it looks like a beautiful gradient in the sky. And I'm going to add some speckles of the white acrylic paint. I just added some water to the paint and I mixed it up with a paintbrush, and I'm just flicking it on the background so that I can have some more interest on this card background. And once I've done that, I'll go ahead and glue it to the white rounded rectangle panel that I die cut for the background. I'm using my scissors and some white cardstock just to cut out the shape of a snowy hill. So if you don't have one of those pretty dies that you can die cut a hillside out of, you can just use your scissors and do it yourself. So here, after I cut that, I am going to take that rounded rectangle die and place it over those cardstock pieces, just so that I can die cut that white cardstock with the same shape as that rounded rectangle piece. So I'm just going to add some mint tape here, hold that in place, run that through my die cutting machine, and you can see when it die cuts that, now the edge of that white cardstock takes on the same shape as the rounded rectangle piece. I'm adding some of my peacock feathers, which is a teal ink, to the edge, just the top edge, and then I'll go ahead and glue that white cardstock to the bottom of that snowy background panel. I'm going to go ahead and place my die cuts. I'm going to use some silver trees, and here's another option for creating like a little pond that the animal is skating on. I'm just taking this very thin blending brush and I'm just putting some of the peacock feathers ink on it and then lightly putting it across where that animal is skating. So you can see it's just putting almost like a little shadow, which looks like it could be a pond there. So that's another option, rather than using cardstock and placing it there as another cardstock layer. So just using ink and just putting a thin line for a shadow. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and glue all of those die cuts down to this panel. And I stamped out a sentiment on white cardstock and I'm going to add it to this panel. My sentiment says, "Wishing you frosty fun." And then I have a piece of the tree pattern paper and I cut that to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I want to pop this snowy background panel up on the tree pattern paper, so I'm adding some foam to the back of the smaller rounded rectangle panel, and then I'll add it to that pattern paper. I'll finish this up by adding that entire panel to a piece of the sky cardstock that I cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and then I'll add that to a white A2 size card base. So that will complete my card, and that will complete all 6 cards that I made with the Stamps of Life Club products for November. I would love for you to leave me a comment and let me know which card was your favorite for this month. Please head over to my blog and you can see up close pictures of all of these cards as well as any additional products that I might have used in this video. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like videos like this and want to see more, please click that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications so that you'll be notified every time I release a new video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.